인스타 들어가 보시고
That's it,
많은
brother.
지원 부탁드릴게요. 네, 그럼 지금 바로 월드 볼스 사진 오픈 보디빌딩
Good man.
시작하도록 하겠습니다.
Got your book.
Come on, Siebes.
Got your book.
So here we are, we got our pro card, and I remember coming back home and you feel like you're top of the world, right? Which is very figurative to the fact that you're actually at the top of the ladder because now you got your pro card. But the reality is you're actually at the bottom of the pro ranks. Because when it comes to the pro league, you gotta earn your name, you know? When I say earn your name, a lot of people don't know this. I remember I did my first pro show in 2019 and the gent, or the head judge rather, without even looking at the score sheet, he looks up to stage and he goes, Michael Lockett, step forward. He goes, Charles Griffin, step forward. He called another gent, I forgot his name. He looked down at the paper, he looked at my name, didn't bother saying my name. He looked up and he said, contestant number 17, step forward. And up until you get to a point where the judge can look at the stage, say your name and surname, you haven't earned your own name. So that becomes a very beautiful experience because you want to work so hard that they got to know your name and surname, right? And up until then, the reality is you're just another pro. They just turned pro and no one really cares about. Being in an environment that I'm in and I've been able to have a controlled environment, not only just controlled, but I've got a very specialized team, right? Head coach, strength and conditioning coach, I've got medical doctors, 2 chiros, 2 massage therapists. Every single thing that I have in my disposal has been able to aid the person that I am, has been able to aid the professional athlete that I am. It becomes a different ballgame now that you have to do this in another country where there's language barriers, there's, you know, there's unforeseen variables that you can't otherwise control, whether it's traffic, whether it's the weather, whether it's, you know, finding things at a supermarket. It becomes very difficult and, you know, otherwise mentally draining or sometimes discouraging. One thing that I normally live by is that you got to work your plan and plan your work. And I think what becomes very difficult is I'm in a subjective sport, right? I'm not the kind of guy that is in the sports where if I cross the finish line first, everyone can see and, you know, congratulations, I came first. One thing that Jack has always said, and I mean, he's been very honest with me. I've been on stage in certain shows where I probably pulled off a first and I'll get off stage and Jack goes, I don't know how you pulled it off because you looked horrific. Or I'd get on stage equitably and, you know, I come second or third and Jack goes, bro, honestly speaking, I had you first. But one thing that has always resonated in all those conversations is the one word and one word only. You gotta be undeniable. You gotta be in a position where you get on stage and the best way to say it, your worst enemy can't even deny you that first place. You know what I mean? So someone who absolutely can't stand you can also look at people on that stage and go, I don't like Sbu, but man, I think you should have won the show. That's where you gotta be because you're in a subjective sport. You know, you're in a sport where someone might like the biggest guy on stage. Someone might like the shortest guy on stage. You know, someone might like the most aesthetic guy on stage. Some judges prefer conditioning over mass. Some judges prefer mass over conditioning. Some judges like big legs. Some judges don't mind guys that don't have big legs because yes, there might be a judging criteria in front of the judges, but it's subjective to what they prefer and what they like. But one thing you couldn't help but understand when it came to Ronnie Coleman is that he got on stage and he was absolutely undeniable, you know. And as I said, my barometer is if my worst enemy could look at me on stage, they themselves should look at me and go, I can't help but not give this guy first place. And that just boils down to planning our work, you know, while we're in South Africa, we get to the other country and we work our plan. That's it. Look, the closest people to me know the finer details of my lowest of lows. You know, it's no secret that I was diagnosed with depression. So, you know, I do have moments where I'll send Jack a message at 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, but I can't sleep because I'm going through a very dark place, you know? And for me, if anything, that's when I think I value my team the most. It's when I'm in those, you know, as we'd call it, proverbial trenches, and I'm catching grenades, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that my team is a phone call away and I don't have to do it alone. That for me is the most special thing any athlete that is in a competitive sports, that's in individual sports, could ever have. It's knowing that whatever you're going through, you're not alone, right? And, you know, we've had a lot of lows, man. Brazil. Brazil has been one of the biggest lows ever. And again, I remember getting off stage, you know, tears running down my face. We were absolutely distraught. And I remember the first 2 words that Jack said to me was school fees. And at the time, I had no idea what that meant. I'm standing there, I'm like, I just got disqualified from a show. This is about to make international news, and the first thing that he says is school fees. What that means is that you go through life, you go through a journey, which is what we're taking right now. It's a journey, it's not a sprint, right? It's a journey, it's a marathon that we're in. And there's gonna be instances and times where you just gotta pay your life school fees. You know, where you can look back and go, this formed part of my story, because this is part of my story now. You know, not if, but when I make it to the top, this forms part of my story to say, I went through this happened, I went through that, you know, I got my, you know, my ass handed to me here, but here we are, you know, we're now at the top of the game and we're enjoying it. And that's why, you know, we are down to earth, we're confident, not arrogant, but it's also because we know exactly how far it's taken us to be here, you know. So school fees, man, you know, you got to pay your school fees somewhere along the line. And the worst thing that could happen for me, I think, is paying school fees when I'm at the top. So I'd rather I do the groundwork now, so when I get to the top, I'm thriving and I'm succeeding at the best place I can be.
Last 3. Last 2. 1 more.
Quitting is not an option, and it's never been an option, because our story that we have is bigger than us. We have our next generation looking at us, which is our kids. I've got an incredible team that is forever rooting for me, is forever in my corner at any given point in time and at any hour of the day. You know, it's a South African story, right? It's a South African story because for the first time when Jack and I did Brazil, I had mothers of people that had nothing to do with bodybuilding sending us messages and saying, we are purely rooting for you because of how incredible your story has resonated with us. So because of that and many other reasons I could actually give you right now, quitting is just never an option for us. Our goal is very clear. I'm gonna win 9 Mr. Olympias. That's the goal. And the plan is very simple. We're just gonna execute what we've been doing all along on a bigger scale, working harder, working smarter, and just being able to plan our work and work our plan. And there's absolutely nothing we're going to do to ensure that that does not happen. It's actually going to happen. It's not an if, it's not a maybe, we're not leaving anything to chance. We are absolutely solely responsible for the outcomes that we're about to have, and those outcomes are success, nothing else.